The forest cemetery stood silent under a moonless sky. Detective Sarah Chen had seen many strange cases in her 20 years with the LAPT, but nothing prepared her for the call she received at 3 a.m. A federal court order demanded the exhumation of the world's most famous entertainer, 10 years after his burial. The reason? A cryptic letter had arrived at the FBI headquarters, written in code that only Michael Jackson himself could have created. The message was clear: the truth was buried with him, and the world needed to know what really happened on that fateful June day in 2009. As the excavation team worked through the night, Sarah watched from behind the police tape. The media had been kept away, but rumors already spread like wildfire across social media. Conspiracy theorists claimed he had faked his death. Others believed he had left evidence of a massive cover-up. The Jackson family had fought the exhumation order for months, but the courts decided the public interest outweighed their objections. When the bronze casket finally emerged from the earth, covered in condensation and soil, a hush fell over everyone present. The medical examiner, Dr. James Morrison, approached with his team. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for the seal. This wasn't just another autopsy. This was history unfolding in real time. Sarah noticed how the usually composed doctor paused before breaking the seal, as if sensing that what lay inside would change everything they thought they knew. The click of the lock echoed through the cemetery. As the lid slowly opened, everyone leaned forward. Then, in an instant, every person present stepped back in shock. The casket was empty. But something else was inside, something that would unravel the greatest mystery in entertainment history. Inside the velvet-lined casket lay a single object, a platinum-encased hard drive, untouched by time or decay. Attached to it was a handwritten note in Jackson's distinctive penmanship. Dr. Morrison's voice cracked as he read it aloud. "If you're reading this, then you've found what they tried to hide. The truth isn't in my death. It's in what I discovered while I was alive. Play the files. Tell the world. I couldn't do it myself because they were watching. They're always watching." Sarah felt her pulse quicken. This wasn't a hoax. The handwriting had already been verified by 3 independent experts during the court proceedings. Someone had anticipated this moment a decade ago. Someone had planned for this exact scenario. But who switches their own body with evidence? And where was Michael Jackson's actual remains? The questions multiplied faster than anyone could process them. The hard drive was immediately transported to FBI headquarters in Quantico. Sarah joined the team authorized to view its contents. In a secure room with no internet connection, they plugged the drive into an isolated computer. The files were protected by a password that took their best cryptographers 6 hours to crack. When the first video file opened, Michael Jackson's face appeared on screen, but he looked different. Older, weathered, and deeply afraid. The timestamp read June 24, 2009, just 1 day before his reported death. "My name is Michael Jackson, and if you're watching this, I'm already gone," he began. His voice was steady but urgent. "For the past 15 years, I've been investigating something that goes deeper than anyone imagines. It started when I noticed patterns in the music industry, patterns of control and manipulation. But it became something much bigger. I found connections between entertainment executives, pharmaceutical companies, and intelligence agencies. They've been using artists as pawns in a psychological operation targeting the global population." He continued for 20 minutes, detailing names, dates, and evidence of a conspiracy that seemed impossible to believe. Yet everything he said could be verified. Sarah watched in stunned silence as the king of pop transformed into a whistleblower, revealing secrets that powerful people had killed to protect. The second video file contained footage from inside Jackson's mansion, recorded by hidden cameras he had installed without anyone's knowledge. The recordings showed meetings with people Sarah recognized, high-ranking government officials, media moguls, and pharmaceutical executives. These weren't social visits. They were threats, thinly veiled as business discussions. One recording captured a conversation that made Sarah's blood run cold. "Michael, you need to understand the position you're in," a man in an expensive suit said, his face clearly visible. Sarah recognized him immediately as the CEO of one of the world's largest entertainment conglomerates. "What you think you know could destroy everything we've built. The system works because people don't ask questions. Artists like you are supposed to perform, not investigate. If you continue down this path, we'll have no choice but to remove you from the equation." Jackson's response was calm but defiant. "I have copies of everything. Financial records, communications, medical experiments. If anything happens to me, it all goes public." The executive smiled coldly. "That's what you think. We control the media. We control the narrative. Even if you release everything, who would believe you? You're already seen as eccentric, unstable. We've been building that image for years, just in case you became a problem. The video ended abruptly. The next file showed Jackson's personal journal entries, scanned and preserved digitally. Page after page detailed his discovery of a massive operation to use entertainment and pharmaceuticals to control public behavior. He had traced money flows from major record labels to government black projects. He had documentation of drugs being tested on artists without their knowledge. He had proof of media manipulation on a scale that seemed impossible. But the most disturbing revelation came in his final journal entry, dated June 24, 2009. "They've won," he wrote. "I can't run anymore. I can't hide. My doctor has been compromised. I know what's coming tomorrow. But I've prepared for this moment. They think they're silencing me, but I'm leaving breadcrumbs. The truth has a way of surviving, even when we don't. I've made arrangements for my body to be replaced. I've hidden the evidence where only the right people will find it. If I must die, I'll die exposing them." Sarah and her team worked around the clock analyzing the remaining files. Each document painted a picture more disturbing than the last. Jackson had uncovered a network that spanned continents, a shadow organization that had been operating since the 1960s. Their goal was simple: control culture, control minds. They had learned that music, combined with specific pharmaceutical compounds, could alter brain chemistry and influence behavior on a mass scale. The files contained scientific studies that had never been published, experiments conducted on unwitting subjects including celebrities, soldiers, and ordinary citizens. Jackson had obtained these documents through sources he never revealed, protecting them even in death. One study detailed how certain frequencies in music could trigger dopamine responses that made people more susceptible to suggestion. Another showed how medications prescribed for anxiety and depression were sometimes laced with compounds that enhanced this effect. But Jackson had gone deeper. He had traced the network's leadership to a group of individuals who operated behind legitimate businesses and charitable foundations. These weren't comic book villains. They were respected members of society, philanthropists, academics, entrepreneurs. Their motivations varied. Some believed they were saving humanity from itself by guiding cultural evolution. Others simply craved power and profit. All of them agreed that the masses couldn't be trusted to make their own decisions. The evidence was overwhelming and meticulously documented. Financial records showed money moving through shell corporations and offshore accounts. Emails discussed subjects and trials with clinical detachment. Meeting minutes outlined strategies for promoting certain artists while destroying others who didn't cooperate. Jackson had been one of the biggest artists in the world, but when he started asking questions, he became a liability. The most shocking file was a recording of a phone call made on June 25, 2009, hours after Jackson's death was announced. Two voices discussed the operation's success. "The target has been neutralized," one said. "Cause of death will be ruled as cardiac arrest from propofol overdose. His doctor will take the blame. Everything is clean." The other voice responded, "Good. Make sure all his personal files are destroyed. We can't risk any leaks." They had no idea that Jackson had already moved his evidence to a location they would never think to search, his own grave. Sarah sat in the briefing room as federal agents debated what to do with the information. Some wanted to go public immediately. Others feared the chaos it would create. The people Jackson had named were powerful beyond measure. Taking them down would require coordination across multiple agencies and countries. It would take years, maybe decades. Meanwhile, the question that haunted everyone remained: where was Michael Jackson's body? The answer came from an unexpected source. A man walked into the FBI field office in Las Vegas claiming to have information about the case. He was a mortician who had worked at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in 2009. He had been paid a substantial sum to stay quiet for 10 years, but his conscience wouldn't let him remain silent any longer. "They gave me a body," he confessed, tears streaming down his face. "It wasn't him. It was someone else, surgically altered to look like him. I helped place it in the casket. I've lived with that guilt ever since." The mortician led authorities to a private mausoleum in a remote part of Nevada. Inside, they found a second casket, sealed and preserved. This time, when they opened it, Michael Jackson's body was inside, exactly as it should have been. DNA tests confirmed his identity. He had been dead all along, but his final act had been to ensure his death meant something. He had orchestrated his own exhumation, knowing that eventually, someone would question the circumstances of his death enough to demand answers. News of the discovery spread globally within hours. The files were released to the public through multiple channels simultaneously, making them impossible to suppress. The world reacted with shock, anger, and disbelief. Investigations were launched in dozens of countries. Arrests were made. The entertainment industry faced a reckoning it couldn't avoid. Some of the people Jackson had named fled, while others hired armies of lawyers. But the evidence was irrefutable. Sarah stood at Jackson's reburial ceremony, watching as thousands gathered to honor the man who had given everything to expose the truth. He had been more than an entertainer. He had been a warrior fighting a battle no one knew existed. His music had touched billions, but his final message would change the world in ways even he couldn't have imagined. As the casket was lowered into the ground for the second and final time, Sarah whispered a promise, "We'll finish what you started." The investigation continued for years, unraveling threads of corruption that reached the highest levels of power. But that day, standing in the cemetery where it all began, Sarah understood something profound. Michael Jackson hadn't died in vain. He had become immortal in the truest sense, not through his music alone, but through the truth he refused to let die with him. The world had gone quiet when they opened his coffin, but what emerged from that silence was a roar that could never be silenced again.